And we are delighted now to welcome to our microphones, just coming in studio, Carla Sands. Have a seat there, Carla. The former ambassador to Denmark.
Hey, it's so good to be here.
Let's see if we can try that again.
Hey, it's so good to be here.
Well, I was doing well, and then I'm not doing so well. Try that again here, John.
That's got to be on green.
It's got to be on green. Yes. Okay, there we go.
Hey,
there we go.
Delighted to be with you.
I am getting radio production 101 here.
Carla.
John is the expert on it, and the Mega Bus is absolutely a compact communication vehicle.
Live, work, play. That's
exactly
what I say.
Carla, before we, and are you a member of the Pennsylvania delegation also?
I am.
Well, great.
I am, fellow delegate.
We are delighted to have you here in studio. We'll get to Pennsylvania here in a bit, but I just have to ask you this. I have never met a former ambassador to Denmark.
Never?
Never. This is the first time I've ever met a former ambassador to Denmark.
I guess there's a first for everything.
And you served as the ambassador to Denmark from 2017 to 2021, right?
I did.
That's 4 years. That's actually
almost 3.5.
3.5. That's a fairly long stint as an ambassador.
And move.
But how did it come about that you became the ambassador to Denmark?
It's a great story. It was actually the dream of a high school girl to be an ambassador.
So this would be you, the high school girl.
I was a high school girl.
And where'd you go to high school?
In Cumberland Valley High School in central Pennsylvania.
So you are a native Pennsylvanian.
I'm an 8th generation.
Ah, great. So how did you have the dream to be an ambassador?
Well, I come from a small town, and I didn't know about the Foreign Service and that you could actually have this amazing career path by going and taking the Foreign Service exam and then going to D.C. and entering that career pathway. I didn't know about that, so I had to go at it from the political pathway. And I just, I took a test when I was in my middle of high school, and just, I think it was a God thing. I went home and told my little sister, when I grow up, I want to be an ambassador. And I just kept that goal, that aspiration as like a North Star in my life. If I had choice A, choice B, I always made choice A that could keep me on that good path. Mm-hmm. And that helped me direct my life decisions, because I think a lot of young people, when they're in high school, younger, college, there's an inspiration. It could be a teacher, an advisor, somebody. They get an inspiration, and it's something that sets their career path in the trajectory of their life oftentimes. And if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, how it's something that often happens when we're young. And so that's what happened for me, and it was such a fulfillment of a dream to be able to go and serve in the Trump administration.
So when did you start lobbying to be the ambassador to Denmark? Would this be 2016 or so?
We also supported Bush and Romney
and
it
McCain. Didn't happen.
So there were missed opportunities. So it was such a blessing to be able to have that dialogue. And I was a widow by that point, and my daughter was 17 years old. So I knew I was taking a teenage girl with very little supervision who was going to finish high school wherever I went. So that also played into my decision making.
So you get into the decision making process somewhere, the vetting people, and they've got a list of potential ambassadors. You're on the list, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you pick Denmark?
Well, I had been to Denmark before as a young person, and then as a married woman with a child and my husband. And I knew that I loved it, and I knew that it would be a challenge because they hold themselves out as a socialist country, even if many of their policies are much more similar to Trump's than many other countries. I mean, they're tougher on immigration than any Western country.
So I've been to Denmark for like 4 hours once. I was in the Copenhagen airport.
It's expensive.
Yeah. Is Denmark like what 7 million people? How many people?
Not even. Maybe 5.5, 5.6
It's
million.
pretty tiny.
But
it's comparable to...
But it's a kingdom. It also has Greenland and the Faroe Islands. Greenland is a third the size of the continental U.S., and then the Faroe Islands are up by the Shetland Islands, the Scottish Islands, and so they're in sort of that subarctic, and then the Arctic above the the Arctic Circle. For instance, we have a base up in Greenland that's north of the Arctic Circle.
So Denmark itself is kind of tiny.
Very tiny.
Is it like
Like New Jersey.
Is it like New Jersey?
Yeah.
Is it like totally flat?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not a lot of variety in terms of the topography of Denmark, then.
No, but you go to the Faroe Islands, which has soaring cliffs and waterfalls. I think it's extremely romantic for a couple to go to the Faroe Islands. And then you also have Greenland, which is very remote. And, you think of our state of Alaska as being harsh. Greenland's harsher than Alaska. Super cold. And extremely sparsely populated. If you think of about 55,000 people on the continental size of a third of the U.S.
What does the ambassador of Denmark do? What did you do as the ambassador?
So I worked to counter Russia and China, and I worked to increase U.S. jobs by increasing
Those are
trade.
the objectives, but what's like the day-to-day job of a...
There were no objectives. You set your own agenda. Trump and Pompeo let each of us decide what we
Really?
were going to... No one ever interfered with me. Someone tried from the State Department early on, and I knocked
So who
them
tried... Ooh, who would want to be... Don't mess with
fascinating.
Carla. Now, who tried to tell you what to do from the State Department?
So they shall remain nameless, but the fact
Oh,
is
come
we
on.
got a lot done.
It's just you and me talking here, Carla.
Right.
Or
But
shall
I
say
had
ambassador.
amazing people from the State Department I was working with. They were unbelievable. Patriots, love our country. Most of them went to church every week with their kids. And they got behind our goals, and we were able to put a consulate in Greenland. We hadn't had a diplomatic relationship
Okay, so
there.
this is actually pretty significant.
Yeah.
To put a consulate
It's
in Greenland.
extremely rare. We close consulates in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, but
We
a
don't
consulate in
open them.
Greenland makes sense since we've got that base there, right?
Well, I thought so. And China has a
Mm-hmm.
minority interest in a majority of the mines, but they also were very active in trying to push their Belt and Road initiative
Mm-hmm.
in Greenland. And then we were also able to do things like get a Coast Guard billet for the regional security, Arctic security, and that was by me going
In
and
Greenland.
talking to the Coast Guard commandant in Washington.
Did
yeah.
you go to Greenland?
Yeah, of course. And
You
and
went
the
to
Faroes.
Greenland.
Oh, yeah.
Is it-
You can't do stuff without going. You have to show up in life.
Is Greenland as sparse and as moon-like as we've heard?
More.
So Greenland, moon
It's
probably
like
prettier.
being on the moon,
Yeah.
and I've used that
Yeah.
analogy. And there are airplane accidents all over Greenland. Airplanes go down. The weather changes on a dime. And when I got there was literally no infrastructure between any towns. There are no connections by road or rail between any towns. You have to take a helicopter or plane if you want to go visit your family in another town.
Okay, so why on earth does anybody actually live in Greenland? It's like, what, 50,000 people?
Think of our American natives, our Inuit population. Some people call them Eskimos. Well, there's an Inuit population there. This is where they've lived. They've hunted seal and whale and the very, very large creatures. They're fishermen and hunters, specifically.
I have a very important question for you.
Ask.
You ready?
I don't know. Maybe I'll answer.
Are you the person who suggested to Donald Trump that the United States buy Greenland?
Well, so I was involved in that, and I will say when we were in the Oval and he named a number.
President, just you and me talking here.
Right. Well, of course I can't have a
Executive
conversation
privilege.
about our conversation. Right.
But I think it's a great idea to buy Greenland, frankly, because it would be in our strategic interest.
Well, and there are other ways to get it done where we make it more secure. Remember, it's just off our northeast coast. It's part of our hemisphere. We don't want Russia, which has a lot of subs around there, and there's been a lot of activity by Russia. And then, of course, China, which is trying to take over the world, to have that influence
Chris
in our
Ashman has a
hemisphere.
question
Hey,
for you,
Chris.
Carla.
Nice to meet you, first of all.
Yeah.
Why would America want to increase its presence in Greenland? What's the geopolitical necessity here?
Right. So it's think of Cuba. Okay, Cuba's closer to the U.S., but the fact that President Biden's allowing them to have this listening post,
Right.
which means they're collecting, but they're also doing more military stuff together. That's a danger on our back door. Remember, Russia used to be very involved in Cuba,
Oh, very much.
and look what happened.
Yeah.
So we don't want a repeat of that. Now, Greenland has a lot of rare earth minerals. We don't want China to control rare earths in our hemisphere. Our hemisphere, with the Wilson Doctrine, we're supposed to be more on top of it, and that means Central America, South America, Caribbean, and I will give you Canada and Greenland. We need to make sure that Mexico, that they're secure from bad actors, so we don't have a threat on our doorstep. And so Greenland, everything there when I got there had been built by our military during World War II when we occupied it. And China tried to buy a deep water port that we had built from the Greenlanders. China tried to finance and build 3 airports there. So they were trying to ramp up their sort of stranglehold on Greenland, and it would be like them having a stranglehold in Canada. Let's just not let that happen.
We're talking with former ambassador to Denmark, Carla Sands, a native of Pennsylvania. Okay, so Donald Trump announced he's going to pick a VP.
I can't wait to see his pick. Can we just say thank God that he's alive and with us today? It's an absolute miracle. God's hand was on him. There had to be an angel of protection over him at that moment. It's a shock.
I completely agree.
I'm still in shock.
I think he's survived by God's hand.
I agree.
A millimeter, and he's dead.
God is here.
I completely agree.
And what it would
with
have done
that.
to this country?
Oh,
Yes.
it just
I just can't imagine.
I cannot imagine.
No.
Now we have to keep him alive.
Well, there's always been this sense that the United States of America, its formation, its founding, has been providential.
I 100% agree with you.
And-
My ancestors came to this country for religious freedom, and I think it's one of the most important things. But when you look at how they tried to take him out with the lawfare, they tried to bankrupt him, put him in prison for 700 years. They tried to smear him with Russia, spying on him, the 3-letter agencies illegally, right in the White House, no consequences, and then trying to take his life. It's just unbelievable that we're here today, and I'm really hopeful, as he says he's going to unite the country and bring us together. This could be a really important and wonderful moment for the United
Exactly.
States.
When he got up off the deck,
Yeah.
and he knew he was in danger, the blood, the shock of everything. To have the presence of mind and the strength of character to stand up and say, no, wait, and tell his team to go fight. Chills. That you have that in that capacity.
Iconic
And iconic, instantly iconic, but also instantaneously transformative for this country. People go, damn, if that's the way he is in the saddle,
Yeah.
give him the wheel. Right?
Carla,
Sorry to mix metaphors.
the
but
issue
seriously.
is now he's announced this morning that he's going to announce his VP pick.
I can't wait to see
What
who that
are the
is.
qualities that we should be looking for?
So I want to see someone who, and I love people like Ben Carson. He's steady. He's such a true believer in the America First agenda. But I want to see someone who can actually serve out as president after President Trump's term, God willing, that he's able to be
So
elected.
that would be one of your criteria.
Yes.
So to me, it's less so, and I'll tell you why. Because I do think the theme of unity means let's all unite. I think a Trump term will be great, and if there's somebody who can carry on the America First agenda thereafter, I think that's great. But whether or not that person is vice president, or whether or not that person is a cabinet, or somebody we've never heard of, let them fight that out in 2027. But I understand your point.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen in this conversation, and I've known Chris LaCivita and the Youngkin team for a while. Initially, Glenn Youngkin was supposed to speak at 6 o'clock tonight. His time slot has been moved up to 7:40. That's a tell.
You're really pushing the old Glenn Youngkin.
No, I'm not. I don't.
Do you think it might be Glenn, Chris?
Just because? No, I think it. Because so much has
He's a
changed.
terrific governor.
He's a
He's a
fantastic.
great guy.
He's a good man.
He's a good man.
He is a fine. And I don't say that about many people in politics.
I
but
actually
that's a good
attend the
man.
church that he founded
Really?
in Virginia when I'm in Virginia.
I think he's a fantastic man, but it's also about, okay, what's the next step here? And if inside the game, what do you? We talked about this in the previous segment. What are the decision-making factors? And the fact that they waited this long, talk about providential, and not having a previous, like 2 weeks ago, announcing their pick. They changed their minds after the debate. Did they change their minds again?
Did they change their minds after the assassination attempt?
What do you think,
That's
Carla?
the question. I think they
Maybe.
have to.
I think so too.
it had to have
Also,
come into
look,
play.
they
Had to.
switched. He's rewriting his entire speech. He's
Everything
focusing
changed.
on
It's a
unity.
new day. Today is a
Okay,
new
so
day.
who do you think?
I can't speculate, but I do
Yes, you
love
can.
some of the
You
names.
can speculate.
Carla, they
We're-
want you to speculate.
We're in the land of speculation here.
I like J.D. Vance.
You do.
I do. I love his book Hillbilly Elegy. I think he's a good
Marine
businessman. Yes, he's a good man. He's tough.
Yep.
And I think he is a convert to America First. So he's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like?
I said earlier in the segment that I would have thought somebody else previously, but after the assassination attempt, I think Ben Carson, because
He's a doctor. He'll have a doctor with him.
I know, but if you look at the word unity,
Brain surgeon.
think about
Right?
I know. Think
Don't
about
do
the
this to
theme.
me.
Think about the theme, unity. Okay.
Yeah.
Who best promotes unity? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it Marco Rubio? Is it Doug Burgum? Is it Ben Carson?
And then we have the governors like Glenn Youngkin, and then we have people like Mike Pompeo, who's
DeSantis?
extremely.
It will not be
highly-
Mike Pompeo. I'll
No.
tell you that right now.
I don't think it's going to be any of the ones who.
I don't think it's DeSantis.
I don't think it is
No,
either.
because
I think his star has fallen temporarily.
Trump doesn't
He
really
can
like
still
him.
come back.
Let's be honest. I don't think there's a whole lot of happy ground between those two.
No.
But the question is, what does it say to the public? And I was speaking with Youngkin's pollster last several weeks. What has changed since the debate? And what changed in the debate was the Trump campaign was picking up male voters, predominantly minority male voters.
Right.
They had moved. So how do you keep them? Because a lot of people have been locked into to the voting for the last 3 or 4 months. They knew who they were voting. It was going to be Trump or Biden, and it was going to be whisper thin between the
Right.
top tier, the old
But
blue wall
changed.
states.
It's all changed now.
Things have changed, but to what degree? Who doesn't show up and who shows up really matters in this business.
It's not going to be Youngkin. Let me come back to you.
Can we just talk about one
Yes, we
thing?
can.
So we have to vote. Like I like
Right.
the talk, the speculation about who's going to be VP today, but we have to win, and in order to win, people have to vote. And if people wait till Election Day, I read a poll, 20% of the people that intend to vote on Election Day can't make it. 20%. We can't afford to leave 20%.
Okay,
of the
another final, very important question. What role will you be playing in the Trump administration, Carla Sands?
I'll serve wherever I am needed, but I hope that all of your listeners will go to swampthevoteusa.com, swampthevoteusa.com right now. If they'll take their phone out, go to swampthevoteusa.com and commit to the Trump campaign right now. Are they going to vote early in person, which in my home state, we've got 50 days of early voting. It's coming up in like 2 months. Or early by mail. I've voted early by mail for 30 years. I love it, and I can track my vote, and I know it's been received. It is safe and effective. Sorry, everybody who's like a naysayer. It is safe and effective.
it's gotta
Stop
be-
the
gotta
crazy
be that
talk.
way.
And then third, you can commit to them. Vote on Election Day. And if you'll do that, they don't have to keep sending you stuff, and they can save money, and they can know you're going to vote.
Carla Sands, what a delight to meet you. I think there's a big role for you in the political future here of this country. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.